Support for This News is So Gay comes from the LGBTQ Opportunity Fund of the Cleveland Foundation, leveraging philanthropy to empower LGBTQ communities. Welcome to This News is So Gay. I'm your host, Ken Schneck, editor of the Buckeye Flame, Ohio's LGBTQ newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's what we're covering on this week's episode. We've spent some time on previous episodes talking all about LGBTQ organizations struggling in the current climate, but where are their stories of LGBTQ orgs doing pretty darn well? I swear they're out there. Creative protests. What are other folks doing out there to use their artistic abilities to protest injustice, which I love, and of course, queer joy. Where is our roundtable finding queer joy in the news right now? Joining us this week to answer those questions and so many more are two Report for America core members, which we've never done before. They've both been on the show, but we haven't had an episode solely with Report for America core members. For folks who don't know, Report for America is a national service program that places journalists into local newsrooms to report on undercovered issues and communities, and their roster includes our two panelists this week, rural LGBTQ beat reporter for the Buckeye Flame, and yes, a core member for Report for America, Ben Jodway. We drove over together. How are you, Ben?
Hi, Ken. I'm doing well. Thank you for driving me.
Anytime. I'll drive you back as well. And
Wow.
religion and culture reporter at Fresnoland, covering topics spanning immigration, LGBTQ issues, and local cultural events, and also a core member for Report for America, Gisselle Medina. Gisselle, it's been forever. Welcome back to the show.
Oh my gosh, Ken, it's always such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Folks can't see Giselle's new haircut. We love it, but it's radio. It's radio. Our LGBTQ Reporters Roundtable is now assembled, so let's dive in. We've been starting the past couple of weeks asking our roundtable how they're doing, and I feel like that takes on a special meaning as you both, if I am allowed to say, you're both early career journalists. I get nervous that that's like insulting in some way, but is that okay? Are we okay with early career journalists?
Literally, it's not insulting at all. I very much
Okay.
embrace that. I don't know about
Yeah.
Ben, but I think Ben feels the same.
Yeah, I'm early career, I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, well, neither do I, so that I'm also an early career journalist. But giving everything in our field and everything the country is navigating, and by the way, our field includes, if folks have not seen, we're not really talking about it much today, but some massive layoffs at Out Magazine and those brands, even as Out Magazine is acquiring them. And so we'll see how that turns out. But generally, with our field, with the country, being a journalist right now, Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's like stressful. I have like a strict rule of after 5, I'm like done. Unless I have to do, cover something after that. But I don't look at the news on the weekend. Usually I only check like the AP headline to make sure that Trump did not declare war. That was usually a joke I said. But no, things are good. I think you really do have to have like a good escape to like keep doing this stuff all the time. Mine is I'm learning piano. I've been playing little ditties on my keyboard for about a year now. So like that keeps me sane. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Gisselle, we're going to talk about some of the news that you cover, but you're covering some hardcore stuff out there in California.
Yeah.
So can we just start with, how are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I am covering really difficult topics right now. And I think one, it's difficult because of the obvious, the fact that like the Trump administration has been constantly attacking specifically immigration communities and like LGBTQ communities. But also, I think for me, it's another level of difficulty because like those two specific identities are very intertwined with myself. Like I'm a child of immigrants. My mom was born in Mexico. My brother was born in Mexico. And to report about immigration is just, I always think of them when I'm covering it or I'm thinking about like my family. And on the like LGBTQ plus side, like I'm queer and I'm trans. And so to see these attacks on our communities nationally has been difficult. And so for me, I'm trying to just pour my heart into these stories and constantly like checking in with community members and making sure I'm telling the stories that I feel like aren't really told here in the Central Valley. But also at the same time, it's like, how do I balance that while trying to stay away from the news on the weekends? And I feel like it's very difficult for me. And I've tried to like, the way I combat that is I try to just take like mental health days off where I'm like, okay, but this day I'm completely like checked out. Like it could be a random Monday and I'm just writing poetry or I'm just like playing like cozy video games on my Switch, like Animal Crossing right now, or like doing like something more like crafty to just try to like be away from a screen. But yeah, it's hard, and I feel like it's also hard because I live in the same city that like I've lived in when I was a kid, and not to go into much detail, but it was very there's a lot of like childhood trauma tied to it, so it's difficult on that level as well. So yeah, just trying to do my best and trying to balance everything, and trying to just be there for our communities.
Ken, how are you doing?
Yes.
I appreciate that. We've talked about this at the Buckeye Flame, where we have a certain number of prescribed days off. And I think that I'm much more hardcore with you all, with the staff, about making sure to take those days at the end of the year. I mean, you can carry over some of them, but making sure that you take them because they actually
Mhm.
are there so that you can disconnect than I was myself at taking them. So I did, as folks heard and Ben knows, we didn't do a new episode last week because I was in Belize. And so it was great to not be here and to be minimally engaged. And I actually did, I think, better than I ever at being disconnected. Now, I think that there's still room for improvement, but the fact that I wasn't constantly engaging with our readers on social media or I wasn't responding to all the emails, and I actually said to my boyfriend, 10 minutes in the morning. Now, I could have just not done 10 minutes, and I think everything would have been fine, but that I was able to limit it to 10 minutes was really good for me, and I will say, I credit you, Ben, with some of that. Ben, you're amazing at boundaries in a way that is aspirational for me. I'm doing okay. I think that sometimes, and this is a little bit of a difference between, I think, what I do and what Gisselle does, in that I sometimes turn off some of the other news because I know I'm not going to have to write about it in the same way that my Fresnoland colleague will. Whereas, I'm sure there is an LGBTQ plus Ohio angle to this new war with Iran, but I don't necessarily have to throw myself into it. So I've been actively distancing myself from things that aren't LGBTQ plus Ohio, though, gosh, there's enough LGBTQ plus Ohio stuff to bum me out anyway. So it's not that much, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. And I think it gets to this idea of support, right? I would love to hear from you all because we know among the many listeners of this podcast, and want to pause here. Thanks everybody for listening. We hear more and more from folks, and it's just such a joy. I sometimes forget, oh, that's right, people listen to this. So thanks everyone for listening and for your many emails and feedback. We absolutely love it. But we know among our listeners are editors of various different newsrooms and tons of other journalists. And so would love to hear from you both about what more support you think early career journalists can use at this moment in time, or if there's a certain type of support that's really working for you right now that you wish all newsrooms did. We want to hear that as well. Gisselle, what more support could you use, or is there a certain support that's really working for you right now?
Okay, I'm let me preface this by saying I'm not trying to say that Fresnoland is so great, but they are. But like, and I specifically say that because like they've been very supportive about me covering these topics.
Yeah.
Since I've started, like I've been here a year and a half, and I was hired as a religion reporter, but then when we were starting to understand that there was a possibility that Trump was going to come back in the office back in November 2025, I was starting to do some coverage on like, okay, how are like LGBTQ plus communities feeling right now? How are immigrant communities feeling right now? And that kind of led into like me just solely covering that now more than religion. And then like kind of leading to like just feeling like, okay, I have to do all these stories because I feel like no one else is doing them. And my editor, Rob, he has always been since like day one very much like, how are you doing? Are you okay? And he would constantly like ask me that question. And we would check in like 3 times a day over the phone. And I would like always talk with him and walk through like the stories I was working on that I would pitch. And yeah, it felt like in those moments I was like, yeah, I'm doing okay. Like I'm, for what it is, like I can do okay as much as everyone else is doing okay. But then it slowly became like, oh, I actually am getting burned out and I'm not necessarily really realizing that. And he was very much like, you need to take time off then. Like, if you want to take time off, like, I know you're someone who doesn't really want to take time off, but like, please, like, take time off. And I talked to my newsroom about maybe if I can take mental health days as like sick days and not let that dip into my PTO. And they were like, yeah, like, whatever you need. And so I took like a week back in, I think, October of last year. And that, like, it really, really helped. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like support across newsrooms should look like stuff like that, like conversations that are very candid between reporters and editors about like what that specific reporter may need. And also editors being proactive about finding resources for their reporters, how to stay safe during protests, but also how to be able to better balance their workload.
Love that. Now we get to the awkward part where I ask Ben, what more support could you use? Because if you come up with something that's just not happening, I'm going to feel like crap, but I'm prepared for it. So, Ben, what more support could early career journalists use right now?
Well, I'm happy to bounce off of what Giselle's been saying because I'd say that it's been the same at the Buckeye Flame. Like I feel like we have a lot of conversations. Those conversations help. Definitely like starting the rural LGBTQ plus beat was totally new territory. So like it felt like we were kind of all developing it together as a newsroom to figure out what we wanted out of it. So that took a lot of the stress out of especially like starting this job. But the supports have been is very similar to what Giselle has been saying. Those one-on-one conversations, being forced to take time off when I need to, and stuff like that. But I'd also add, I also have a fantastic mentor through RFA who has been on this show, Felipe, and he's been a great resource to just like help. Make sure I'm on the right track with what I'm doing. Like early career, it's easy to like I don't want to hit on the imposter syndrome stuff too much because I almost feel like that's like beating a dead horse at this point. But like being able to just like be like, okay, no, these are the things like journalists are actually doing. Because oh my god, does college J school not give a fucking shit about like actually going into like what this is about and what it's like on the ground. And Felipe's been good at even though he does professor at doing J school stuff. He's great at it, and like his stuff helps me. And like RFA has been good with the trainings too, especially like not that I've covering it right now, but like their ICE talks and trainings around that, and a lot of stuff around like vetting your stuff for legal work and stuff like that has been super helpful. But yeah, I mean, those are the big supports, and I hope other newsrooms give them, as well as paying your staff a living wage.
Yes, that is important. Well, in one sentence, Ben doubled the number of curse words we've said cumulatively in 33 episodes. So that was exciting. Well, we certainly do want to jump into some specific stories that you two have been writing because you're, of course, doing wonderful work. We've been covering quite a bit on recent past episodes about how much LGBTQ plus organizations are struggling all over the country, but there's some really cool stories about LGBTQ plus organizations doing really cool things. Giselle, tell everyone about Casita Feliz.
Oh my gosh, would love to. So Casita Feliz is the first like Latin LGBTQ plus community center in the region here in the Central Valley. And we don't really have many like queer organizations here. Like there was one that was owned by a conglomerate and they were around for like forever. And they just closed their doors, like actually very recently at the end of last year, going into this year. And because some of the employees knew that that was going to happen, but obviously they couldn't really talk about that publicly, they started to make their own like organizations. With their specific identities. So, for example, like there's Black Queer, which is specifically a queer like organization for Black people, and then there's Gender Alchemy, which is a specific organization for trans people, and stuff like that. And so, Casita Feliz, like even though the person Diana who runs that, she wasn't working at that conglomerate, but it was around the same time that like she opened her doors. It was about 2 years ago, and she basically moved back to Fresno and just wanted to create the center, but didn't really have that funding. Like she was trying to find a specific like location for the building, but a lot of like property owners were like, no. And she thinks like one, it's because like she's trans, but also two, because like it's a trans specific organization as well. And so she then like bought her own house and then opened her own doors and then had a Dia de los Muertos celebration that raised a bunch of money. And that was able to help her to buy a property that's now like really close by in the Tower District, where it's more predominantly like queer people live here in Fresno. And she's been doing just a lot of different community events, and she's been very consistent these past 2 years. And now, like, she got specific funding from the city to be able to create a art project where she's specifically asking community members to send in like old photographs and like their stories and specifically document like brown queer people here in Fresno, chronicling from like 75 years ago. Like she wants a historical archive, and she wants Casita Feliz to like home it, and eventually become like a rotating traveling exhibit throughout Fresno and maybe even outside of Fresno. But yeah, she's doing great work, and a lot of these other different organization leaders are also doing great work here in Fresno. It's really nice to see.
Love hearing it. Now I want to live in the Tower District.
It's fun. It's really fun. It's so great to like just walk a couple minutes to the gay bar.
So
Oh, man.
surprising to hear there's not a lot of like LGBTQ plus community centers
Mhm.
in Fresno. Because I think just people seeing
Yeah.
California would make them like, how is that the case? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for saying that. I feel like there's a big misconception that like all of California is blue. And that's so not
Mhm.
true. Like Central Valley is
Yeah.
very, very, very red. And specifically Fresno is weird because like it's both like a small town, big town feel, but it's also like it's conservative, but it's not. And you
Hmm.
know, it depends on the neighborhood and stuff. But yeah, there's technically not a specific LGBTQ plus community center here. That's gone now as of last year, going into this year. Now it's just a couple organizations. So it's strange.
Work to do. Work to do. Now, Ben, you wrote about a discussion series in Knox County, which is a rural county here in Ohio. On the surface, okay, discussion series. It's not this radical idea, but for this area of Ohio, it is a pretty big deal, right?
So the organization is Knox County Pride, and for the most part, they're known for doing like just the Pride celebration in June or July when they host it. But what kind of made it so interesting was Knox County is also known for Mount Nazarene Christian University. It is a Christian private liberal arts college there. This man, Tom, is like a retiree who's like done like some LGBTQ plus employee resource group stuff and like has like some experience like leading discussions like that. But he was like kind of done. He's older now. Like he just kind of wants to like chill and ride his bike. And then Mount Nazarene University was doing like this sort of like self-help series or this motivational speaker series. And they invited noted motivational speaker Riley Gaines to come and speak. And Riley Gaines is one of the anti-trans people and sports people. You could probably say anti-trans in general. Often she's the one coming to testimonies to like do sports bans and stuff. And so Tom showed up with a couple people from Knox County Pride, and it was so terrible to sit through that Tom was like, okay, I need to like really get back in the game, and I'm going to do what I do best, which is discussion. So he launched this sort of discussion series that takes on just like general topics that help people learn to like find community and eventually go towards like how to like kind of stand up for yourself as like a queer person, like advocate for yourself. And they started doing this series very recently. I want to say just in February, or the end of January. It's been well attended. There's been new people coming, well attended for what's expected in Knox County, right? So this is just like a
Right.
it's a small group of people, but like 2 or 3 new people is like awesome for a small place like that.
Yeah.
And they're doing this discussion series, and it's like making people feel connected while also giving Knox County Pride more of a footing to do more than just Pride stuff and also learn what they could do better. Because it's also kind of a listening session for Knox County Pride itself. So it's this really good way of like building community, helping the organization, and it's like this perfect little loop going on in a place that really, really needs it.
Yeah, I mean the narrative thread between those two stories, Fresnoland and here in Ohio, is one person, one queer person really making a difference. Well, one of my favorite subjects to talk about in life is creative protests. I am all for a creative protest when folks do something different in order to, yes, protest injustice, but also cut through all of the noise out there. And Gisselle, your piece about artistic anti-ICE protests was so inspiring to me, and I'm so appreciative that you penned it. Tell everybody about what you found there.
Ken, that's so sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I was very excited to do this story because I didn't feel like it was a story that was really been told in generally. And so like I kind of just like picked random artists that I saw online, like on social media that I was like, "Whoa, they're doing really cool art." And I was like, "Let me reach out to them and just hear more about it." And what I found was that a lot of artists were just bringing a lot of their identities into their work, and they would phrase it as like, "Well, we're not trying to do political art. It's more like their life has always just been shaped by politics, so they're just doing what they're doing. They're just expressing themselves." And there's one specific artist, his name is Jose Soria, who just did this exhibit, his solo exhibit that just opened in a new art venue here. And he is both Latino and queer. And he would specifically do paintings and artwork relating to like collective experience of like love, grief, and pain. So he would like, his work would confront ICE raids and family separations and systematic violence, but it's also rooted in his own experience, like as a child of immigrants. But he's also like, there's a specific painting that he did that really like stands out to me. He just painted like a scorpion kind of like inflicting pain on pomegranates. The way that he wanted the art to represent itself was like, quote, fruits sweet, vibrant, and life giving, like crimson juice flows like the pain so many of us endure. And he's specifically speaking to the rise of hate and like policies under Trump against like trans youth and like queer people. And so he's also done like work, like paintings where like he would just paint pomegranates, and he would like specifically did it as an ode to like his boyfriend, and like the beauty of like find being able to comfortably be himself and be able to pursue a queer relationship out like publicly. And so yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of energy from these artists that just want to try to make a difference and create space in their own communities. There was another one who like specifically does also like immigration multi-dimensional art, but like she also wants to create space for community members to make their own art. So like for example, she was doing screen printing at the same time of that exhibit from the previous artist. She screen printed on like shirts or like tote bags or posters, and it was like a papel picado. And it was like a Latino banner of, and it said like chingada migra, which is like fuck immigration police. And like so many people came out to like experience that for free. And that was like a way for her to connect with new people about her art as well. So it's just been really beautiful to see the way these artists are thinking about not just these topics and their identities and what's going on in the world, but like trying to make sure that they're doing their part and wanting to do their part to bring community together.
I love it. Ben, we know that drag has a long history of being a form of protest. But now one drag show at an unlikely place is being threatened, and I want you to tell us about it. And I do love this story because of the sheer number of people who read the headline and assumed that it was being threatened because of the place where it is, and that's not even remotely what the story is.
So in Findlay, Ohio, in the small rural town of Findlay, Ohio, there is a place called University of Findlay. It is not a public university. It is a private Christian college. And I want the commenters to read my lips. Private Christian college. It is in there about me. And there they have a student GSA, Gay Straight Alliance, called United. And for the past 13 years, they've been doing an annual drag show. This has been their biggest fundraiser, and it's been one of the most well attended events. It is like basically neck and neck with their comedy jam, which they bring in like comedians, and some of them are like pretty big names who come. So they get a like, I think like last year was like 500 people. So they get quite a showing. And they've been doing this for 13 years, and with basically the blessing of the university, they are funded through their like university student government association and stuff, and the fundraising they do. So the university is really not involved besides like there's a space that they're renting out and they pay for catering and stuff, but university is pretty hands off. But this is like a huge community event. Like they say, a lot of community members come, and there's a huge presence from the on campus church called Revive, who come, and they're having a great time. There are professors who tell these student organizers how excited they are to come, and they've even had conversations with the university president, who is now outgoing, Dr. Catherine Fell, and about just like queer identity and like how to support students. And their take from it was that it's super supportive and stuff. Unfortunately, the Ohio legislature wants to ban public drag through HB 249. And they're doing this by saying that drag needs to be performed in an adult cabaret, which is a very specific legal definition. It is not just places where it's people who are 18 years or older. It is specifically has to be like a strip club. It's basically what it is. So this would end their drag show. Most likely, they would have to change it or move it somewhere else, and it'd be weird. And they're worried about that because this could be their last drag show. And if it is their last one, this could be really impactful to their funding. And they were saying that if this is taken away, you might as well take away the GSA. Like we can't do the events we do normally. They're hoping that they might be able to rebrand it into a costume show.
There you go.
But they don't know, and the university did not reply to me on like what would happen if this bill is passed. We don't know when the bill is going to get more hearings or if it will survive. Given the trend of Ohio, it probably will, but a lot of it's up in the air. So they're doing the last drag show here in March, and it's hopefully going to be their best attended one.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I'm putting money down that the drag bill will be coming back in our legislature and will be passed right before Pride. There's always one big anti-LGBTQ plus bill in Ohio passed before Pride, so we'll keep folks posted on that. But for right this second, we're not quite at Pride yet. You are listening to This News is So Gay. I'm your host, Ken Schneck from the Buckeye Flame. Joining me this week, Ben Jodway, also from the Buckeye Flame, and Gisselle Medina from Fresnoland. By the by, if you are not subscribed to This News is So Gay, what on earth are you waiting for? Subscribe to This News is So Gay right this very second on your favorite podcasting app so that all of our new episodes automatically make their way to you. Well, it is time, folks. It is time for Glitter Bomb. This is where our roundtable shares stories of queer joy that they are seeing covered out there in the news. So let's set off a glitter bomb. Gisselle, let's start with you. Give us a story of queer joy that you're seeing out there in the world that you want to shout out.
Yeah, a little unconventional because it's not like a news article.
Love it.
But I just found out about this trans athlete named Clayton Reeves, who made history as a competitor on like season 17, last year's season of American Ninja Warrior. He made it to the semifinals as a rookie and is now like in the new season that's coming out this summer. I didn't know about it. I'm a big American Ninja Warrior fan. me and like an ex in high school, like we're like super funny and wanted to train for it. And like, so we would go to like specific gyms that like had all these obstacle courses. And like, I like ran up a wall once. It was crazy. So like, it was just to like see like this post today actually. Because I didn't know about it. I just thought it was really fun.
I love it.
I think Clayton Reeves almost won in the season he was in. I think he placed second. I could be super wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
People are like, he's going to win this one. And like, it's apparently no one has won it before. And he was like one of the closest to actually win.
Yeah. See, I'm so happy. That's amazing.
I could be super wrong. I'm not up to date. Maybe someone won it by now, but like, that's what I remember growing up.
Well, I'm calling it right now. I'm calling that the winner of season 21 in a few seasons of American Ninja Warrior, Gisselle Medina. I'm calling it. I think there's going to be training happening. I'm putting it out there right now. So that'll be a Queer Joy story that we cover in a couple of years. But for right this second, Ben Jodway, what do you got for Queer Joy?
This has been like an inescapable story when I open up Instagram. So I feel like I have to just say it to get it out there. There was a transgender comedian who was in Chicago and jumped into Lake Michigan, not knowing how to swim, to save a child from drowning. I mean, they made it out. He's okay. I don't know much more besides that, but it would come across my dash, and I'm like, you know what? Fucking awesome.
I love it. And finally, Jonathan Groff announced this week that he is headed to the West End in London for an all-male cast of Shakespeare's classic As You Like It, which got me thinking because we had to read As You Like It in high school. So for both of you, for this week's quick queer culture question, what was the gayest book that you had to read in high school? Ben Jodway.
I am so happy you asked me this question because this was a subject of fierce debate between my whole accelerated English class versus my teacher. A Separate Piece by John Knowles is so fucking
yeah.
gay, and John Knowles refuses to acknowledge it, but like it is so gay. And also The Great Gatsby, which after the summer we read A Separate Piece, my English teacher was like, okay, I know about the separate piece thing. I'm going to give you this one. Yes, Great Gatsby is gay. The college scholars all say it, you know, I'll give this one to you. And we're like, thank you, but you should acknowledge that A Separate Piece is gay.
There it is. Gisselle, gayest book you had to read in high school.
I agree about The Great Gatsby. I did not read that in high school, though. My high school, because I went to high school here in Fresno, fun fact. And it's very red here, like I've said. And of course, there was no like queer books in the curriculum. And I also wasn't fully out yet in high school, like even though like I was like experimenting with like my friends and stuff, but like I didn't know. And so like I feel like even when I was reading books, and that would include like like A Streetcar Named Desire or like To Kill a Mockingbird or like The Secret
Mm.
In, it was a lot of books where it was like they wouldn't bluntly talk about queerness. And if they did, maybe they would obviously paint them as like a negative light. And so I do wish though that I read books like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I love that book. That came out around the time that I was in high school, and I wish I was able to read that. The Heartstopper series or like One Last Stop. But yeah, I feel like I can't really remember any books that had queer undertones either, though. I feel like my curriculum is very specific about not that.
Are there high schools reading Heartstopper? I went to the wrong high school.
I bet
Oh,
there are.
come on, Pascack Hills High School in Montvale, New Jersey. I was sitting there reading Portrait of the Artist as a young man, which, by the way, was pretty gay. But yeah, all right. I got to go back and read Heartstopper. But before I read that, I'm going to read more things that you both are writing, and we want to know what's coming up for you. Gisselle, what's coming up for you?
So much. I feel like there's so many stories. I just published a story this morning about our local Chinese New Year celebration that happened on Saturday with like lion dancers and fireworks, and that was very fun to photograph. I also have written a story about this new exhibit at our local Latino Cultural Center that specifically this like scholar turned muralist is bringing a bunch of undocumented people together and learning alongside them on how to create like big large scale murals to put like on the US Mexico border. And so that's fun. And then I also have written a story about how Black History Month is turning 100 and how specific community members here are observing and honoring through like creating their own like exhibits, specifically featuring first Black leaders and community members here in Fresno. So yeah, lots of like arts and cultural stories right now. This has been fun.
Love to see it. Ben Jodway, what's coming up for you?
Well, the big thing that's coming up, which is this many months in the making feature about queer people teaching other queer people how to shoot guns. And it's at a queer owned range. Not only is it like a day where it's like teaching queer people about like gun safety and like how to use a gun, but also they do trans only days because the organizers are also trans. So that is the big thing I'm working on, and I'm super excited to finish that up.
We love it. Can't wait to see the puns that we put into that headline. It's already making me nervous. But that is all the time that we have for this week. And I want to thank our roundtable, 2 RFA core members doing such incredible work and certainly giving me hope for the future of journalism. Gisselle Medina out there at Fresnoland, please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate you.
Ben Jodway, always a pleasure.
Yes, and it's always a pleasure when you drive me here.
He's getting a ride back, folks. I'm Ken Schneck, editor of the Buckeye Flame. And if you liked this episode of This News is So Gay, please share it with a friend. Subscribe so that you do not miss out on our next episode. Send an email on over to editor@thebuckeyeflame.com. That's me, to let us know your thoughts, and rate and review us on your favorite podcasting app. This News is So Gay is a product of the Buckeye Flame, a nonprofit newsroom. Become a recurring donor today for as little as $12.50 a month, which truly enables programming like this and supports our scrappy queer newsroom. In the meantime, read LGBTQ+ news, share the stories of LGBTQ+ reporters, and support the work of LGBTQ+ newsrooms. Until next week, friends.